Alright, so I'm gonna record another video showcasing another feature I've worked on. So I didn't have much time today because I was busy outside doing other stuff, but I've been able to make a little bit of progress with the whole map making stuff. So one of the things that you may have noticed is that now we have a working lava panel, right? I mean, it was already there, the setting, but it didn't have these controls enabled. So now we can actually export lava in game. So in this map, I've made this side to be water and this other to be lava, so that we can showcase how they each work. And if we go over into the game, right, and we actually start the map, we should be able to see. Hopefully this does not crash because I kept Magicka minimized for an extended period of time, and that may have fucked up stuff. It's a very unstable game, sadly. But when this loads, we would hopefully see that the map has a puddle of lava to the side. So I'll explain why everything is green in a while. So this one right here, as you can see, is a puddle of lava. Pretty cool, right? And we can use water to make it go into stone, or we can use coal or whatever, right? Because in Magicka both water and coal are enough to convert the lava into stone. So yeah, pretty much it's fully functional. We can just walk into the lava actually, and if we slowly walk, one cool property of lava is that the ground stays a little bit under your feet, giving you a small margin of error, and you start to burn before you die completely. But I'm just gonna drop into the lava puddle. You saw there's fire damage in there, so this is not a reskin water, like this is real lava working right now. Okay, I mean, the water freezing the lava into stone was actually the giveaway that it's true lava within Magicka's game code. So as you can see, the water on water does nothing, but the water on ice freezes up, and fire makes it go back to water. So we also have fully functional water, which I already showcased before, right? So there's not much to showcase in here. But that's all there is for it right now. All there is to it. So let me explain on the level editor side the things that have changed. So primarily, we can now pick any surface and we can say if it's geometry, collision, water, or lava, as we could before. But now we have the lava with this panel enabled. It can drown entities, can freeze, is auto-freezable, same as water, right? They share the same properties because in Magicka's code, both water and lava are actually identical classes. They are full copy-paste of each other. There's no differences when it comes to the data that they read, right? And that's one of the things I wanted to discuss. The only difference is behavioral when it comes to the rest of the implementation of the class, but like the constructor entirely is the exact same thing because they both contain the exact same data, and that's the problem. They are both just liquids, right? And that means that technically I can just pick water and in the materials, if I select the material to be a lava material and we go to the JSON file and it's a lava material, right? Well, effect as they are named in Magicka's code, you could export something that is marked as water as lava, and it would work 100% as lava because the compiler that I built, the Magicka pub tool, would convert that, will completely understand that it is meant to be lava, and it would convert it into lava, right? But that's just because the way that Magicka reads files for liquids, they are all bunched together, no matter their type, into the same list. So you've got both water and lava mixed together into the same list in the XMB file. The layout is that first you get the effect that is being used by the liquid, right? And that's how, through polymorphism, the reader, the XMB reader, is capable of determining if the data that it goes ahead after that effect is meant to be a water or a lava surface, right? So basically, if you put a lava effect on a water surface, it will export it as lava because that's basically what the actual reader for the game is doing under the hood. So at the end of the day, both lava and water are pretty useless settings to have if you think about it. They could be merged into liquid, and that's one of the things I wanted to discuss, because obviously this tool is work in progress and everything could be modified over time. So that's just something I wanted to bring up in case I'm just hoping that people give me feedback and tell me if they want it to be merged into a single liquid option rather than having water and lava separated. Because right now the only reason I have water and lava separated is that if you go to your exporter, right, um, right here you can see there's a config path that doesn't get saved yet, but it will eventually. And this path right here is where you would tell the exporter where to look for the JSON files that contain the materials or effects that we are assigning here. Because you see, as I explained in the first video, or maybe I forgot to explain, basically the way it works, it takes the name of this asset right here and it searches for that file so that you don't have to write the code every single time. And we simulate materials from other engines, because if you think about it, Magicka actually inlines the code for every single material. It just picks a shader type, which is the effect type, right? And the rest of the data about that material has a bunch of slots for the textures and the settings, which are mostly floating point and booleans, right? And you just customize those inline every single time you use them. So there's a lot of duplicated information, and I don't want users to have to write that information every single time. So we simulate materials this way, right? And since we simulate materials this way in this tool, we have the problem that pretty much you can just assign anything you want to water and lava, as I explained before. But we also have a cool thing, which is that if we go to the exporter file, right, the code of the exporter, I'm gonna look up to it. Basically, we have a part where we generate the file, you know, the material text, you know, the inside of the effect. Which is right here. Let me just copy the function and put it in a different file so it looks a little bit cleaner, so that you don't have to look through all of the trash that I've got in here. Okay, so basically we got a make default effect function which takes a type, and this is the function that is called under the hood by the make effect function. The make effect function looks up for the files, and if it doesn't find any files, it goes onto this lookup table of sorts, which is if else in Python, because we don't have switch statements, but whatever, it's the same thing because it uses strings for lookup, right? So anyways, maybe I should make it a map, but there's 3 material types right now, so it doesn't matter. And what it does is it looks for the type, and the valid types are water, lava, and geometry, right? And that way, if you don't set up your materials folder properly, rather than crashing the game when you load up the map, for geometry, which is, you know, level geometry, basically anything that is meant to be visual stuff that appears on the level model, like houses, the ground, trees, etc., will be assigned this material right here, right? It's a pre-made material which is inlined into the code of the exporter add-on so that it doesn't depend on any external dependency files. So in case that you mess up your paths, your file will not look as you intended, but it won't crash every time you launch it. So it will be very easy to debug. You will see your textures are gone and you will realize, oh, I forgot to put the path in the exporter, right? You won't have to be wondering, what did I do wrong? Why is it crashing? Is the add-on wrong, right? So that's one of the quality of life features it has. And you see that the water has also its own defer liquid effect, and the lava as well, right? So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to mention that I'm keeping the lava and water settings, because the exporter, if you don't assign any materials or if you forget to assign the path, it will automatically look up this type and say, yeah, I don't find any files on the path you're telling me to look for, so I'm just going to say, since this is marked as lava, I will give it a lava material. So that means that you can easily debug lava without actually having to set up your paths for materials, right? So if you're in a stage where you don't care about the looks of your map, only about debugging gameplay functionality, you don't actually sacrifice lava becoming unusable and transforming into water. You keep lava as lava and you keep water as water, right? So that's basically one of the things that I wanted to mention. Also, another cool property about this is that if I mark things as water and lava, I could potentially change the code in the exporter so that when you read this material right here, we could throw an error and stop the export process and say, hey, you assigned the wrong material type to this surface, so I'm not going to export the file. Fix that. Why? Because even if water and lava effects are interchangeable between those surfaces, because they correctly behave as whatever the shader effect says, right? Because the effect is what actually under the hood determines in Magicka's code what a surface is, right? If you assign something like ground material, for example, if I set the stone texture, right, and I assign this stone the third effect for water, the game crashes because Magicka is not capable of knowing what is going on. If you look at the code, it checks when translating a liquid, it checks what the effect type is, and if it inherits from, if it's, if it inherits from effect, obviously it has to do so, right? And then it checks if it's an instance of a liquid the third effect, then it's water, and if it's an instance of lava effect, then it's lava, and otherwise it throws an exception, and that exception goes unhandled in Magicka's code and it causes the grain to crash, right? So basically, if I change this right here to go to stone, I could export it. The exporter will not care because right now it gives you total freedom to do anything you want, and it would just crash, right, when you open them up. So these are all things for consideration than just explaining. Hopefully other people will see and will give me their ideas, because as the programmer of this tool, I have pretty clear what I think is best for me right now because I understand how this works. But not everyone has the same workflow, and it would be extremely useful to get feedback from people, from like the 3 or 4 people watching these videos, telling me what they think is best to make this exporter the best tool it can be, right? Because I don't want it to be annoying to work with. It can get polished over the years, of course, right? But if we get some feedback early on this kind of stuff, then we can avoid a lot of headaches and make it extremely easy to make fully functional maps without risking people generating files that actually don't work because they made one tiny typo somewhere, and that's actually going to break everything, and it's gonna take ages to figure out. If we can get the exporter to figure out all the corner cases for us and just say, hey, this thing right here is wrong, fix it for me so that your map is gonna work, right? Then we can get it working. If you wanna be permissive and shoot yourself in the foot potentially, or you know what you're doing, we could actually add an option in the exporter right here. When we go to export, we could have a flag saying don't do any kind of special checks or whatever. Like, let me do whatever I want. I know what I'm doing. I'm just testing out stuff to see what works, because that's another thing. A really good part of this tool is that it could potentially be used to reverse engineer further how the game works, because you can test out stuff that it's not explicitly written in the code, but you can test if it actually runs or not, because it's an edge case of something that technically is supported by the game, even though the developers didn't really intend it, right? So there's a lot of considerations to be had in here, and I just want to know people's opinion on this stuff, if there's anyone even interested in watching this video and replying to this. Hopefully I didn't bore anyone with this static screen explaining all this stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching.